First of all, a few people have asked me what the synergy is between Westpac and ourselves, and building a property portfolio. There's a big synergy there with ourselves and Westpac, as far as when you buy a property, you can't buy, people say you need money to make money, and that's part of the parcel. And with building a property portfolio, where do you get the money from? And the big thing is the bank. I think 50% of it would come from the bank, from building a portfolio, 50% of it would be from planning and getting the right property. So I guess over the last 12 months, like Westpac doesn't endorse the business as such, but they do support my goals as far as a property investor and the goals of individuals like yourselves here looking to build a property portfolio on your travels of it. So with that note, just to confirm, I'm not a financial planner, I'm not a financial advisor, I'm not an accountant, I'm not a solicitor, I'm not a bank manager, and I'm not a builder. So on that note, tonight what I'll be talking about is just my experience over the last decade of how I've been able to use property as a vehicle to get me from where I was at 18 years old to leaving the workforce when I was 24 years old and to where I am today. So with that, tonight we'll be covering off on a bit of a market update. Quite recently I've had a fair few people asking me what am I seeing happening in the marketplace, so I'll touch on that for a little bit. Looking at how to protect your properties from a management side of things, because there's hurdles that there are to come over throughout the process. What I look for when building a property portfolio is what properties I buy, why I buy them, how I buy them, and a little bit about building a success team, how to renovate, and how I nowadays make more than an annual wage in a month from just doing renovations. So on that note, we'll get started with it. If we can just hold off on any questions as well to the end. With it, a lot of people have questions, so hopefully I can cover off on them. Obviously, if I'm speaking for an hour, there's a certain amount of questions and stuff I can take. So if we can hold them to the end, write them down, and I'm happy to have a chat about it afterwards. So with it, getting started on the market, what am I seeing currently happening in the marketplace? There's a fair few things out in the media, like one day you'll see that the media's talking the market up and saying that the market's booming. One day you'll see the markets and media coming out saying the market's going to collapse and all those sorts of things. And when I first started investing, I know that there's a couple of people here from when I was in school around here tonight. Looks there in a hand somewhere. Yeah. Anyway, with it, you remember back in the day when I used to read a Holmes Victorial at the train station. Like it's something that over the period of time, I've been looking at the market before I could even buy a property, and a lot of education went into just looking at how to build a portfolio. And when I first started investing, I could sign a contract when I was 18 years old. That was 2003. And I remember back in 2001, there was a lot of talks. GST got introduced into the country. Interest rates were up on a high, and September 11 had happened. First home buyer grant went from 11,000 down to 7,000. And with it, there was uncertainty as to where the market would head to. And from that, we ended up seeing the whole market double and have the biggest boom in the country. So what do I see today? We've recently seen the first home grant, the stamp duty exemption get taken away. If we look at the stats, I was looking at some stats the other day, and in the first quarter of 2012, the property market's gone up in Sydney by 2%. So would the first home grant change anything? No. I'm still seeing the top end of the market is a bit more volatile, should I say, where there's a bit of price changing happening, but in the lower end of the bread and butter sort of stuff, there's always activity happening. And from my personal experience, when I was 18 years old, that was 2003, that was the peak of the property market then. And since then, I've built a portfolio of over 50 properties, and with that, I've made money. I've made quite a few $1 million in property investing doing that. So in any marketplace, you can find opportunities out there and build a portfolio, and we'll look at a few of those things that have got me along the way tonight. With it, what have I been buying recently? We're in March, and since our last catch up in November seminar, I have purchased 3 blocks of units, whole blocks of units. I've bought a couple of individual units. I've bought a villa, I've bought 2 houses, which we'll look at later. They're totally destroyed and needed to be fully rebuilt. Yeah, so the question is, 25% of the way through the year, I pictured myself the other day, and I've got personal goals that I want to get better than those achievements that I've done. And there's always something we can be doing, whether it's property investing, whether it's whatever it is, to improve ourselves personally. So with it, from a rental side of things, I'm seeing that the rental yields at the moment are quite strong. There's a lot of tenants still out there. There's an undersupply of construction still happening, and a lot of people are looking for rental property. So rental yields are on the rise. And from a finance side of things, I can't talk from a lending perspective, but what I'm seeing out there is a few of our offers are being accepted more so nowadays because people are falling over on finance from changes happening within the back end of all the banks. So with it, there's opportunities out there. With it, just a little bit on how to protect your portfolio. John's mentioned about how to protect your income, which is important. Obviously, when building a portfolio, for myself, in the early days, it was a lot about how to accumulate properties. I thought, how could I get 10 properties by the age of 30? And from looking back, I laugh at the goals that I had because I want to change it now to 100 properties by 30. And with it, along building the portfolio, there's things that you don't think of that do occur, whether it be insurance policies, whether it's the right property manager or anything like that. And with it, I've seen a lot of people get scared about buying properties for certain reasons, whether it's that the renovation's too big or whether it's from getting the wrong property manager or whatever. So with it, I always make sure that all my properties have got property managers in them. I might just get water. Sorry. So I make sure that all my properties have got property managers that look after the rental side of things. So my job as an investor isn't to go out there and collect rent or chase a tenant up because they haven't paid their rent or say 5% or 7% for a management fee. My job is to manage my properties and keep buying. So with it, get yourself a good property manager. It isn't about getting the cheapest rate or anything. It's about who's going to get the best result for you. With it, the other thing is make sure that your properties have got landlord insurance on them. Recently, I've had a few examples from my personal experience where tenants, I've adopted professional tenants, and when I say professional, I don't mean they're on 80 grand a year and they've got a suit and tie. They're out there to cause trouble, and they're trouble tenants basically. And I had one instance recently which would have cost me a lot of money from a tenant believing that his property got broken into, and there was $9,500 lucky worth of stuff that got stolen, like just materials and possessions, electrical goods, whatever. But the same tenant's been going to tribunal every day of the week, looking at how all the terms and everything of the tribunal. So basically, the tenant's tried to put a fake claim on me, and it was in the insurance policy that was not my thing. It was from a public liability side of things. So I handed over to the insurance company, and they sorted that out for me. So it was just the little things that you don't expect when you're first starting off building a portfolio that do arise over time. And with it, from insurance and financial planning side of things, for me, it's important to make sure that you've got the right team around you as far as getting the right, whether it's accountancy advice, seeing the financial planner, getting the insurance policies in place to structure yourself correctly. Into the fun stuff. Quite a lot of the time people ask me what do I look for in buying properties and building a portfolio. And what probably the best 5 steps are, when I buy a property, I do a lot of research behind it. So I look for what else is being selling in the area, what other things are renting for. I might look at those at 3 months, 6 months before I actually actively buy something within the marketplace there. There's a big difference between just buying a cheap house or buying a bargain property, and some people might look at an area and say that house looks cheap, but is it really just cheap or is it below market value? So important to know the stats, the numbers, the facts, the figures and everything like that before making a decision. With the three biggest things I can say when building a property portfolio, I always talk about it. I look at my property investing like a business, and any business that's out there that's successful has systems and procedures in place. So whether it's someone like Macca's, whether it's Harvey Norman, whoever, they've got systems that set them apart from being just a normal takeaway shop. And for me to buy lots of properties in short periods of time, the systems that I have in place, the first thing is that I make sure that every property is bought below market value. So if the properties, if everything else is selling for $250,000, I want to buy the property for $200,000. So I've got a margin of safety there, as Warren Buffett would call it, to protect yourself from any fluctuation in the market, and also means that I can pull out my equity to go again. So with it, the other thing is to make sure the cash flow is there for it, because if the property is costing money to hold each week, there's lots of spoofers out there that will say, buy this thing off the plan, you can get a tax deduction, you can save on tax and all those sort of things. But if your goal is to be buying properties and building a portfolio so you don't have to work, what benefits of tax deduction going to be? You won't pay tax. You're not trying to claim tax back. So important to know the numbers work out. With negotiating with real estate agents, I've felt over the last 8-9 years of buying properties, the important thing with knowing an agent is that quite often a real estate agent will say that they're working for the owner, but in reality they're working for themselves. They just want to get a deal across the line. And with negotiating with a real estate agent, you have to understand how you can put your best foot forward to purchase a property. So quite often a real estate agent may have a half dozen buyers come through on the weekend, and they could have someone that's going to bring their kids through 10 times and think about the property, analyse it, put all these clauses, all these terms and conditions in it. Or they could have someone rock up to the property and say, look, I'm going to buy the property, here's the offer, and I'm going to sell the property to you. And every real estate agent's different. It's important to understand what the real estate agent wants to have from a deal perspective to get the deal across the line. If you just go out there throwing offers around, lowballing them, it doesn't work. You have to be realistic with the offers, as well as take a decision, closing the deal, which gets to the next point. If you don't close the deal, they won't take you serious either. So they want to be dealing with serious people. If you go in with a serious offer, ready to buy the property, they want to get the deal done. And yeah, so with it, it's important to have a success team. I might bring someone else up in a moment to have a bit of a chat as well. When doing a property portfolio, a lot of people, there's some packs, like there's some brochures sitting on the chairs here, put some stats and numbers in there, but basically a lot of people when they build a property portfolio, they go out to buy 1 or 2 properties, and building a portfolio of 10 or 20 or 30 properties is the big difference between buying 1 or 2 properties. And with that, it comes from getting the right advice, having the right people around you to help you get there. From my side, I basically started when I was 18 years old. I didn't have any sort of formal education to go to university or anything like that. I just went out there, got myself a job. A lot of you may know the story, but I was basically working for 35 grand a year, 35 grand in savings by the time I could sign a contract, and invested that in property. And for me, it took me about 5 years to get to 25 properties. And I'm going to bring up Daniel now. Daniel Young has bought 24 properties in 2.5 years. With Daniel, when I first met Daniel, Daniel's got a finance degree, he's been in university, totally different background to myself, and with it, he's been reading and buying books and all that sort of stuff since, how old? 18? But he was also buying cars and doodads and things that that were fun, and there was a big difference. Like when I was younger and I first started building my portfolio, I sacrificed a few things. It wasn't much in the grand scheme of things, but I saved hard and put all my money. I worked 2 full-time jobs, all that sort of stuff, to build up deposits to put into properties. From Daniel's side, he had a good 10 years of partying or whatever ahead of me, where he bought cars and watches and all different things. And when Daniel first started, he wanted to buy 2 properties in Western Sydney, and he said he wanted to buy one house on land. He wanted to potentially wait for him to go up in value, and yeah, wait for him to have appreciation where he could put a granny flat or whatever on the back. And I met Daniel in just a speaking event like this 4 years ago. Yeah. And from there, Daniel said to me his goal was potentially one day hopefully make some money. And I said, well, why do you want to potentially hopefully one day make some money? You want to make money from day one to buy the right deal. And he went on to buy, I said to him you should buy 4 properties in your first year. And I was helping him out a bit of as a coach and as a buyer's agent at the time. And he bought 4 houses in the first month. And yeah, with a bit of chat.
Hello, my friend. No.
He's not used to wearing suits either.
It's definitely a first. I actually quit the workforce at 21 after I graduated uni, worked at Commonwealth Bank. So I left the workforce, so it's definitely weird to be in a suit. It's probably noticed more of a wedding suit, which is the only suit I own.
I said you have to wear a suit. He said to me this afternoon on the phone, he goes, shit mate, is there a difference between a wedding suit and a business suit? I said, there is. I'm waiting for him to wear his bow tie, but yeah.
But yeah, I think like Nathan started when he was 18. I actually bought my first property when I was 28. So it's a bit of a difference there. I wish I did buy something at 18, then I wouldn't have wasted my money for 10 years and I actually have no idea where my money actually went. But I think, like, I used to read books, go to seminars, and I got to a point where I think I overanalyzed buying a property because I was so scared of taking on debt. Like when I was younger, I didn't want to buy a property, potentially be stuck in it for 30 years, maybe have to wait for the next 7 or 10 years for it to actually go up, and it'd be killing my lifestyle by being negative. And I suppose it's when I came across Nathan's strategy that I realised it wasn't so much what people used to talk about in the media or in the books, that if you wanted capital growth properties, you'd sacrifice the yield, or if you wanted something with strong positive cash flow, you'd probably limit your capital gains because we're probably in a regional area. So I suppose it was eye-opening to me to realise that, you know, when I first started following Nathan on the Summersoft forum, which is just a property forum, he was on 13 properties and he used to post where he would buy, the numbers of the deals, and I thought, wait a minute, here's someone buying in today's market actual deals that are positive cash flow and significant discount to what they sold for previously. So I suppose it's a bit of built-in equity. Yeah. So.
With it, from both our sides, like from mine, I was walking there was no seminars that I went to, there was no courses that I had, there was no internet forums to chat to other people about, there was no any of that sort of stuff. I just went out there, I had a goal of getting 10 properties by the age of 30, and I wanted to be earning $1,000 a week passive income from them. I wanted to have $2 million worth of hardcore assets that would go up and double over the period of the next 10 years or whatever. And from Daniel's side, I guess, I've helped him build his portfolio using the same sort of strategies. But from me, I've seen things, experienced things differently just from doing it alone, and from having someone there to push him in the right direction. I guess that's helped him to do it in half the amount of time that I did it. And we've got investors now that are onto 6 properties in 3 months and all that sort of stuff. So with it, when Daniel first started, he went around and specifically went and spoke to all the banks, spoke to all the brokers, asked a lot of questions to get the answers that he's looking for, and did a good 6 months worth of research. You actually spec in a renovation site.
I did. I spent 3 months. It's just volunteering, really. I drove up every week up to Central Coast at a property that one of my other property investors that I knew of was doing, and I spent 3 months on the ground just doing everything I could. Whether it was ripping out tiles, changing roof tiles, sheeting out.
When he says he spent it actually on the ground, he slept on a mattress. in the property. And Daniel hadn't actually picked up a tool in his life. He didn't know the difference between a drill and a circular saw or whatever. And I guess it was a big learning curve for Dan. Dan's renovated quite a few properties now, but he hasn't actually physically ever picked up the tools. In my early days, I picked up tools, I gave an attempt, and I realised that me doing the work, I'm not professional to do the work of renovation. I didn't know any difference, but I realised it was too hard to slowing it down in the acquisition side of things. So that's where I started to outsource that sort of stuff. So yeah, from Daniel's starting point, just on the lender side of things, do you want to have a bit of a chat about it?
Yeah, I think like when I started off with lending, when I first started, I actually asked my parents who they used, and they actually used someone at St George. And so I went to their lender, who's probably been doing it for 50 years, got a pre-approval for 90% LVR, had quite a big deposit saved up. When I bought a property at auction, then Nathan helped me source, and then when I went back to get a formal, they actually said, you've got so much deposit there, we wanted to see 70% LVR. And I thought, you're kidding, right? Because I actually bought my first one that took me a good part of 10 years to get over the line to buy, and he's telling me I need to put in a 30% deposit. And I was like, no, I actually need that for my other 10 properties or so. So I suppose from there, I went to the next lender, who actually managed to turn my loan over in 7 days and take less of my deposit, which was good. And then I realised, coming back to it, that I should have strategized more about which lender I approached, because this was a second-tier lender who was with the first home buyers and had a no LMI 90% deal at the time, and I thought that's great. But I didn't really check the back-end policy so much that when I went back to pull my equity back out, when I ran out, that they only released funds on the day of settlement, so it didn't actually help me in terms of deposits or closing costs or renovations or was to do any. And also who they use as valuers and so on. Like, it just was a bank that was more skewed towards first home buyers and a bit less, they had less of a risk appetite for investors that want to come back in, pull their equity out, go again and build a significant portfolio.
So I guess, just back up what he's saying, it's important that the people that are helping you are on the same path, the same wavelength as what you're travelling, because using those products he was using didn't get him, sure it was fine to get a property, but that was just going to get him 1 or 2 properties. It wasn't going to get him 10 properties. It wasn't going to get him 20 properties. He kept going down that path. And we've both got different stories. Like, I've used all different banks to start off with, and their policies are different. And I use Westpac personally. I use the guys here in the room, and I've found them supportive of my goals over the time to actually help me build my portfolio. I remember when I walked in to see them do for the first time, and I said, look, this is my position. I want to buy 10 properties in the next 12 months. So I don't know exactly what was going through his head at the time, but people say that sort of stuff, but they don't complete it. And I went back within a period of like 3 months, I think it was, and just kept giving them contracts to get the loans approved. And I think that was where he started getting overloaded and stressed out from so many bills going through. And it's really important. It doesn't matter whether it's your bank or whether it's your accountant. If we move on to the accountant side of things, like, accountants normally say, go buy property, minimise your tax, but your tax, like, are they helping you out? Are they property investors? Like, we both use the same accountant. I've got 2 accountants that I use. One's in Sydney, one's in Melbourne. And Daniel's got, we use the same one in Sydney. And with it, the accountant's advice is very important, just like it is with the financial planner, just like it is with the bank, and as it is with conveyancers and builders and all that sort of stuff as well. If your accountant isn't giving you the right advice, it can possibly be down the track as they're trying to minimise your tax return, all that sort of stuff. I know I've been in that position myself, where you try and claim tax deductions and all that sort of stuff, and it hurts your serviceability down the track. So for myself and for Daniel's perspective, I know Daniel looks at his accountancy very, very thoroughly, where I don't as much. It's not my job, I just thought it to sort it out. With it's very important that you have it structurally set up, because I remember when you were on property number 5, property number 5, Daniel, one of the lenders that he used at that point in his portfolio, said to him, look, you only service one deal, and you can only buy one property off him. And then he bought one property, and the property was putting him in a better cash flow position, so he could come back and service more loans. And if you don't structure it correctly, it can be costly.
Yeah, so with that particular end, I went from just signing up for an economiser loan because she didn't think it would be worth paying the wealth package because I was borderline servicing, that I ended up buying 16 properties with that one lender just because every time I bought one, I got in a better and better position. But I think even finding the right accountant, before I started, I interviewed a number of accountants that I knew had clients that had 20 plus portfolios, and it was a matter of mainly who I felt comfortable with, but I think I always knew that I wanted to create passive income through my portfolio before I started. So I sat down with a number of accountants and said, what's the best way for me to get there? You know, when I do consolidate my portfolio to draw that passive income, how would I factor in income distributions, capital gains tax if I was to sell something, or even passing on my assets? You know, one day I probably would have kids, so just being able to have the best structure that way and not cost myself hundreds of thousands of dollars later on. So
it's something, the cleaning your portfolio, it isn't just as simple as going out there and running out there. We'll bring up a couple of people later on and they can have a bit of a chat about their experiences over the last 6 months and their progress, where a lot of investors think I can just go and buy one property or two properties. If you plan it, structure it, get the finances right, get everything in place, it runs seamlessly where you can build a portfolio which is consistent. If you've got the deposit put into the next deal, you can keep buying property as long as your serviceability is there. So it has to be complementing your income and also your equity position or your net worth consistently growing. So a lot comes to it, but I'm a pretty simple sort of bloke, and if I can do it, so can nearly everyone else. With it, I'll just touch on the solicitor and conveyancer. Very important that you have the right advice from there. When I first started buying property, I bought about a dozen properties through the solicitor that was referred to me just by a friend and family. Lots of family solicitor from the last 20 years. They did like 2 or 3 things for them. I got to a point where I realised that they were holding me back and not having the right solicitor. Like I remember the deal that broke the camel's back was a deal in Gosford, and I picked it up. It was worth $200,000 and I bought it for 120 grand, and I thought I'd bought it. It was only 5 years old. The solicitor wouldn't exchange it because there was potentially some issues, and he had a subconscious mind issue with the monkey on his shoulder saying you shouldn't buy this deal, and I was still going to buy the property. I understood the risk assessing the deal. The worst case scenario could be $25,000 worth of special levies, worst case. So I was buying a property for $145,000, potentially worst case, and it lost me $50,000. So that was the point where I went, I'm going to change solicitors, and the solicitor's sitting in the front here, looking nice. Yeah, with Stephen here.
and also, is Michelle here? Michelle here? Okay, a lot of our clients use it as well.
So with it, there's no reason to say go and use anyone here particularly in the room for any specific reason except that that's who we use. There's probably lots of questions that you'll have over the period of the evening, whether it be a legal question, a financing question, a financial planning question, whatever. So at the end, you can chat to the relevant people about your situation or any questions you've got. I guess from this side, having a good mentor or coach, I'll let Daniel talk about this one because I just did it myself. Got my resolve, but yeah.
I think for me, it definitely helped build my portfolio. I think that without the right guidance behind me, I definitely had a good solicitor, and I use Stephen now after going through a couple of conveyances that did the wrong thing as well and did cost me money, like Nathan's story. But I had a good team around me. But all that doesn't really make that much difference if you go and buy the wrong property. And I suppose, the beauty of having Nathan as a mentor who guided me in the initial stage of building my portfolio was that I didn't really put a foot wrong. In that the first 4 properties that I bought in that first month, I went back to it 10 months later and I put out $310,000 equity from those 4 properties, which then let me build from 8 to 12 properties and went back and redrew some other equity. And it helped me build a portfolio at the speed I did. And I think it wasn't just the fact that he was helping me minimize my errors by finding me the deals or pointing me in the right direction for deals, but it was a mindset change. Like from when I thought I had 0 properties, I would have been happy to just buy 1 in the first year. And then speaking and networking with other investors that Nathan's helped, I realized that I did see some people get good results, and I thought, okay, I'll push it. Maybe 4 in the first year would be excellent. And I didn't even think that would be possible. And I suppose 4 in a month just really just turned everything on its head, and I could look further down the track saying, okay, I think I can actually achieve a lot more than I thought I could.
On that note, when Daniel bought his first 4 properties, he wanted to buy another 3 or 4 in the following months. And I said, hang on a minute, mate, like, you haven't paid a mortgage repayment yet, you collect rent, all those sorts of things. So I guess whether from one side of saying push yourself, or whether it's saying don't step on that landmine there, be conservative, all those sorts of things. It's important to be surrounded, whether it's a coach, whether it's chatting with the person beside you. There's lots of people in the room with property, and knowing the stats that are out there, people, how many properties people own, all those sorts of things. There's a lot of knowledge in this room based on property investment. So yeah, afterwards, if you want to have a chat with others beside you, whatever, to discuss whatever, like, it's a good ground to start that. And backing up on what Dan was saying about the mindset as far as buying properties, getting into debt. For me, I came from a family where mum and dad worked for years and years and years, 40 years my father worked for, and debt was bad. You have to buy things cash, you have to save up, all those sorts of things, and friends and family telling you that I'm going to go broke, and people on the internet saying, oh Nathan, why would you buy there? You're going to go bankrupt if you buy too many properties that are in a not so good location. Well, I made in that period of time $1 million. It's in Western Sydney now, true. So it's the numbers stacked up from buying the right properties where the numbers work, buying it below market value and a strong cash flow. So yeah, whether it's you don't have to be an expert on everything. You can just do what you do. You could be you could have a trade behind you, whether you're a builder, whether you're good with finance, whether you're an accountant. But you don't have to be an expert at everything. There's lots of things I don't do. I don't write my own loans. I don't go and run my own properties anymore. I don't go and do my accountancy. I don't go and save out from not going to use a property manager. I employ the right people in my team to actually do those things for me, so I can focus on other things that I'm better at, buying properties, building a portfolio. So, anyone else on that? With it, a few things that I quite often get emailed about from the controversial YouTube videos about properties that I've purchased that have vandalised and all those sorts of things. Not all the properties that I buy need renovations doing to them. Only a few of them do, and the ones that I do renovations to, I only take videos of. With it, every time I walk through a property, as I mentioned before, in the early days I used to go and do some of the labourer's work myself. Nowadays I don't really pick up tools. It's something I prefer not to do. From understanding the deal, I guess from my side, doing the renovations in the early days and actually doing the blood, sweat and tears, cutting myself and all those sorts of things, I realised where the value is, and I guess it was my apprenticeship to property investing and building my portfolio from knowing the renovation, sort of how you can save time, effort, money. Some of the renos that I do, I see people try and achieve half a renovation of what I do nowadays in 3 weeks, and it takes them 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, and it comes out more costly, and all the opportunity cost of that 6 months wasted. From my side of things, if it took me 3 months to do a renovation like things I'm going to show you, that means I could do one a month. It would take me, instead of doing 1 month, making 50 grand a deal out of it, and making 600 grand a year and just doing those deals, it would take me 3 months. I could do 4 of them a year. There's 200,000. So what's not better time used for? Is it better for going out and paying people to do the work for me, which is going to be a better result, quicker, cheaper and easier, or trying to do the thing myself and cut corners and save money. So before I buy a property, I go through every property, look at what needs to be done. I've got an understanding of what things are worth nowadays. I hope I do. With it, I draw up a scope of works and have an understanding of what each individual thing that needs to change to the property. So if you've got any questions on it, I can get the girls to email you a copy of my scope of works list, which is basically like an Excel spreadsheet with the quantities of materials and all those sorts of things that I use myself. And then working down from that to cost of trades and all that sort of stuff. With it, once you break a renovation down in size from, okay, this thing looks too big, how many are we going to fix this up? You'll see that a house is made out of bits of gyprock, I think there's some brick walls, but gyprock in the walls, plaster, bits of timber, and tiles, carpet, electrical and all those sorts of things. And you can break it down to size and see where the expenses are and plan your renovation around that. A lot of people just go, oh, this thing looks too big, I've got to spend $20,000 on a kitchen. I'll put up a kitchen later, which is really good looking kitchen that costs less than, where's Steve? How much is the kitchen, mate?
Just under 3,000.
$3,000. Got in the store today.
Yeah.
You're the builder, mate. Did you touch the kitchen?
Nah, nothing.
Yeah, okay.
Splashback, drain short, everything.
Everything, okay, sweet. So look at that. How you do kitchen and bathroom, $3,000, $4,000 without physically picking up the tools. The only thing I do is pick up the phone, send an email, put some money in people's bank accounts, and it works like that. I always have a budget, so when I walk into a property, I'll look at the property and say, okay, this is how much I expect it to cost, get some quotes, get some people out to look at the property for me. And that, once again, it's a system in place, like it's like Macca's when they make a cheeseburger, like there's a system and a process. And nowadays, I have my trades that are seamless, scheduled back to back, and got the relevant people to look after that stuff. I initially thought leverage of money was a big thing for me, and what I realised nowadays is leverage of people around, because to build a portfolio, to have all the renovations, to do whatever you're going to do, you need the right people that are going to be there, being able to bring their skill set to the table. And it takes a lot of time and effort and energy to find the right tradespeople. If we've done renovations in before, you'll see sometimes tradespeople aren't always the most reliable. And it's taken me a good 8 years to get the right tradespeople to help me do what I do. With it, the other thing is I'll show you some photos shortly of some properties that have been totally rebuilt, and if you can do that in a 3-week, 4-week time frame, it doesn't mean that you have to go and do the kitchen this weekend, go and do the painting next weekend, 6 months later have a half-complete product. If you staff your tradespeople correctly and get them in at the right time, organise, project manage tradespeople, then you'll have a far better result. That's the big key to it. And on the final note, become a project manager. If you're going to do anything project managing, don't actually become a labourer. If you don't want a project manager, get someone else to project manage the labourers for you. So, is there anything you want to do?
No, I think when I did that 3-month stint as a wannabe labourer, I realised that I wasn't really cut out for early starts, and my back wasn't good for vertical work. So I didn't actually touch a reno until my 13th property, and I was actually scared of them because they were just a pain in the ass. It was like a mental stress on me, like having to organise all the trades and the Bunnings, and the Bunnings like probably killed about 5 weekends of my life already. And so I decided not to do it. And I suppose what I did do, like I didn't really learn enough to be able to start tiling or to, cut in like a professional. So what I did do was I decided, okay, I'll save some money, I'll sugar soap this place. And it was the worst idea in my life because this thing had nicotine all over it. I wiped half the ceiling and my bucket was yellow, and I said, that's it, from now on I'm getting cleaners. And then I thought I can patch these walls, but if anyone's ever sanded top coat or base coat, you realise that, fine particles of dust in your nose or in your eyes isn't that exciting. So I didn't do that again either. And something I didn't factor in was the time value of me doing something I didn't particularly like. And in that first reno that I thought I would save some money on, instead of being a quick 3 to 4 week reno, it actually took me 6 to 8 weeks because I started patching minute holes in the wall. I was, painting and cutting everything.
Rob just spray paint over the whole lot.
I use a nailless now, like my trade is a nailless. But I suppose just me trying to save a couple grand, I actually lost 4 weeks worth of rent. I lost 4 weeks worth of mortgage payments and holding costs. So it's kind of a nil argument. So
On the final note is that he bought a $250,000 asset and he's working for $10 an hour.
Probably 15, maybe all the way. 16, maybe, I don't know what it is.
Could have been playing golf, that's what he likes to. So yeah, with it, do anything else? So this one here is a property that I've just purchased in Griffith. I presented this property to a fair few of my investors that I help buy properties for. And with it, it was a property, I heard John ask about cars beforehand, who's bought a car beforehand, like his house was cheaper than most Toyota Corollas. This thing was 25 grand, and it's in the middle of Griffith, nice little part of town. And it was fire damage, and I rang up Daniel on Saturday morning. I got a call, it was like 10 o'clock in the morning, woke up in bed, and this guy's like, Nathan, you need to buy this house. And I'm like, I told everyone else to go and buy it, and I was helping the investors to buy it. And he goes, mate, this thing is going to go cheap, no one's going to bid on this property. And I guess it was the networking, the relationship with the agent. And he said, look, it's going to go cheap. I said, oh, how cheap is cheap? Well, I wasn't even interested about it. And he goes, oh, 15 grand. And I was like, no, it's not that much. And he said, maybe 20. So okay, I'll sign up a form and started bidding on the thing. And I don't recommend anything that I talk about tonight like this. This is something I did my due diligence on, so don't just go out and think I'm going to buy a fire damaged house and make lots of money on it. You have to do your research on it. I was at an auction the other week where an investor has gone out and paid an extra 50 grand on top of their property that they bought. I was just sitting there scratching my head because they were bidding against themselves basically. This thing here, it had a land value for something in the corner of the street sold for $25,000 that week. And I knew the worst case block of land's worth $25,000. This thing had a brick house on it. The brick house was fine. It just had a small fire in it. It was just a matter of how much the renovation was going to cost me on the property. And it would either mean that I made 50 grand profit in a week, in 3 weeks or 4 weeks, or whether I made 30 grand profit in that period of time. And that's the big key. With it, the renovation came at $25,000, so 50 grand all up for the property. Market value is around $120,000. Rent on it $200 a week, 11.5% return, including reno and purchase price. I've rebuilt the whole item for it. The tradies did it. I might get Steve up if you can. Yeah. I'm just going to introduce Steve to everyone. I met Steve probably eight months ago, would you say?
Yeah.
Putting your phone on, mate.
Yep.
With it, I met Steve, where did I meet you?
In the bank with Madhu, actually.
In the bank of all places.
Yeah.
And Madhu said that I should meet Steve because he's a good tradesperson and he's seen him at his own place doing some work and building other people's homes in the area because Steve builds $1 million houses in Bella Vista and Kellyville and those sort of areas. And I had a chat to Steve and said, oh yeah, this is what I do, and he walked out. I don't know what he thought afterwards. He just went out, and I caught up with him again a month later or so, and we kept passing by. And I was talking to Steve, and he was interested, but he was scared of making that first decision to buy a property. And with it, it was about 6 months. But yeah, took?
Yeah, before we actually got into it, yeah.
About 6 months. And it's good that it took him 6 months to get there because it gave you time to plan and work out what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
Did you think that you wanted to buy all the properties you bought so far?
No, definitely not. No.
Steve, when he bought his first house, it was a termite house in Western Sydney. I'll put it up on the slide a little bit later. And I said, mate, you've got to buy this thing, you're going to make some money out of it. And he said, okay, I'll buy it. I don't really tell people that to buy things, but we had the relationship at that point. Steve is a builder, and his skill set's got to be able to fix that property up. And the purchase price on the property was 160 grand. We'll get onto that later. But Steve's been building brand new houses, bought this house, did some renovation to it, and he's up to
6 properties, yeah.
And how long?
5 months.
6 properties, 5 months. So, has it changed your lifestyle? Have you lost sleep over it? Have you had to eat baked beans? Or?
No, not at all.
Okay. With it, your first 3 properties, how much do you make in equity just from buying the first 3?
Yeah, about 200. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember the conversation I had with Steve because he came into the office and we were having a chat and he goes, mate, I want to quit my job and do this full time. And I said, well, you need to service the loans and build your portfolio, so it's important to keep doing what you're doing and work at your strength, his resources, obviously working and work to his assets of being a trader and a builder. Steve's a licensed builder, and with it I started to get into do some of my jobs. And this property was one that, have you ever been to Griffith?
Never. No.
Okay. I think I told you you should have bought this thing.
You did, you wanted me to buy it, yeah.
So I told him to buy it, anyway, it's another story. So this property here, if you can see much of it, it's just me standing in the kitchen area when it was burnt out, or the house was completely burnt out, like it was missing everything. And this is what 25 grand buys you. It was better than a Corolla. Brings you $200 a week now. So, that was me standing in the property 1 week later, after he started work. And Steve was down there for, how long were you down there for? Yourself?
On myself?
Yeah.
Only a few days, really.
2 days.
Yeah, I sent some people down there.
So, once again, like for me to go and get those tradespeople, it's another thing that I have to do. So I outsourced that job to Steve, and then Steve gets the tradespeople and did a job cheaper than what it would cost people when we put a kitchen in the house. I rebuilt a house, new windows, like there's some photos here. That's what it looks like. So as you can see on the left hand side, that was a burnt out roof. All the eaves were gone, the trusses were half shot, and on the right hand side is the completed product. With it, it was 25,000 in, how long did it take you?
3 weeks.
3 weeks. And you were there for 3 days?
Yeah, but it was 4 days later.
4 days later.
Well, basically, we just started by pulling all the gyprock off, tearing it apart, and we sort of started with the electrical, put all the electrical plumbing back together, resheeted, then doors, skirting architrave, carpet, kitchen, and a bit of paint, that's it. All done.
Makes it sound so easy. I know it was easy, I just stood around and took a couple of videos and pictures and transferred some money to your bank account, and yeah, that was a reno project for me. And people always ask me, who are your tradespeople? Steve looks after that stuff now, as well as, but the important thing is as I was saying beforehand, that everyone's on the same page, whether it be your tradesperson, whether it be your accountant, your solicitor, your bank manager, the person watching loans. They need to understand what you're going through or travel that road themselves. And it's highly important because if you have a tradesperson come out, you've got all different types of tradesperson people you've seen them over the years, I imagine. And, they've got them where they come out with their suit on and they say, oh, you should do this, and your kitchen is going to cost you 15 grand, and plaster your house is going to cost you 15,000. I think even down there we had the local guys like for your plastering.
Yeah,
What was the initial quote? It's like quote like double.
7.5, yeah, got it before. So 3.5 grand.
3.5 grand. It's project managing those people, knowing what to ask for, knowing how to structure renovations, knowing how to handle the tradespeople to get the result for you. So, yeah. With it, we'll move on to the next property. This one's going through at the moment. Who knows Western Sydney? Yeah? A lot of people do. With it, who would have thought you could buy a house in Sydney? We're in Binvested, house is worth $1 million, $1.5 million. 7 minutes down the M7, just go down Northwest Boulevard on the M7. You'll find this house, $110,000, Aussie dollars. Yeah. Purchase price in 2012, not in 1996. The property was burnt. Some of the kids helped us with the renovation. They decided to let themselves in and set the house on fire before we bought it. And with it, I actually told Steve to buy this house. I said, mate, buy this thing. And with it, you're a bit reluctant. This was back around Christmas time. Yeah. With it, we purchased the property for $110,000. I employed Steve to look after the whole project and had a budget of $50,000 to do the property. Basically, everything got redone. It's getting redone at the moment. Just before we go back, this thing is worth $240 once it's been finalised, and a rental return of $320 per week. So it's a 10% yield after reno, and how much is that? 80 grand under market value. This one is just going to be resold. I don't have all that many photos from the inside, but basically the roof, everything was burnt out. The roof, the walls, structurally. That was it beforehand on the left, that was it on the right. Now, the photo on the left was taken 3 days before the photo on the right. So every truss is gone, all the timbers have been replaced. What's the whole state of work so far? Where we're up to?
Well, again, yeah, fire damage. So this one's a lot more severe in the roof. So we just had to rip the whole roof off, take away the tiles, redo all the framing, and then just start again with the walls, redo the walls, put the roof trusses back on, new fascia and gutter and roof tiles. It took about 4 days to get to that stage. So
I went out there today and you saw me when we passed the way there. I was out there for about 5 minutes. With it, it's been completely resheeted. If we have a look at the next photo, see how it looks as of today. That was it on the left a week ago. On the right here, the photos look pretty cool on the computer, but up there it's a bit dark. Sorry? Oh, and yeah, I told you I failed school. Spell checker. With it, the kitchen in there is a nice kitchen. It's like a Bunnings job which will pick up for $650. This thing here was $2,800, and it's what you'd expect to see in a new house, if not better.
Yeah, it's got soft closed drawers, doors. Comes with range hood, splashback for the tiles, everything.
The tiling gets done.
Kitchen sink.
2,800.
Yeah.
2,800 to do kitchen. And that didn't involve you doing it for 2,000. That was inclusive of labour.
That's everything. Yeah. That's a client fee.
Yep. So that thing there, this property from its purchase to resale, how long has it been there now for? Like you've been working on it?
About a week and a half, I think.
Week and a half, yeah.
We're doing the fit out at the moment, doors, skirting, architraves. Tile is going in there tomorrow, redo the bathroom.
Yeah.
Carpet Saturday. So,
Okay.
for another week and a half, 2 weeks, tops, you're done.
So a month worth of calling Steve up, asking him to go and call these people up and making the deal happen, signing some paperwork. It's got $70,000 in it to sell the property. It's after all expenses and all that sort of stuff. So 70 grand profit just for buying a deal and making those happen. You don't have to sell the property. Just the way that we've done this one. The whole strategy behind us all is to build our property portfolios up to a point where they're just bringing in a good passive income, and yeah, whether it's, we're all at different stages, probably a good way to say it. It took me a long while, took him less time, taking Steve a lot less time to do what he's doing today. Any final questions? Actually, no. Right, maybe to talk about your first house. This is in, where was it?
Lethbridge Park. Mount Druitt.
Mount Druitt. 161 is what you paid for it?
Yeah. I walked in, the real estate told me that the termites were too bad, it had to be pulled down and redone. And I sort of walked in, had a look around, did an inspection, it looked okay. Pulled it apart, put it back together in about 2 weeks, cost me $8,000. So, yeah, it's all good. I think I revaled for about 240, 245.
Should have written down.
I was going to do that.
And with it, it's something people are scared off by the amount of work that needed to be done to the property. Reality of it is, once again, like, you bought this property, it's your own thing. Did you pick up tools?
No, I didn't. No.
You told me you were there for 3 hours. But
Yeah, there was probably only 2 days in getting all the termites out and putting it back together. So, yeah, there wasn't much involved.
Yeah. So with it, you haven't renovated all of them. You bought stuff that's in different states.
Yeah,
and,
that's right. Yeah.
So cool. Thanks, that's it.
No,
Appreciate that. And with that, if you've got any questions as well on how you can do this sort of stuff, we're happy to chat about it afterwards. If you want to have a chat to my tradespeople or that, or see Steve, just see the journals afterwards down in front of you. You've got some mail from earlier, if they want to drop their hands. Yeah. Just have a chat with them, I can get them in contact and all that sort of stuff. With it, Steve's a builder, he's doing this. We've got other investors here tonight obviously doing similar sort of things. I might pull up Mel Matheson, if we can. With Mel, I met Mel, of all places, at the bank. How long ago did you meet?
October.
October, okay.
October, yeah.
So speaking of that, just like we are here tonight, with it, what were your thoughts about investing in property at that point? Like,
Well, we bought one property because Madhu had said, you guys need to pull your fingers out and you really need to buy a property, stop talking about it and just go and do it. So we did. We bought a villa in Quakers Hill, which is very negatively geared.
before we met?
Before we met. And so Madhu had said, you need to think about a strategy. And we're like, oh, okay, we will do that. And then he said, you need to meet Nathan. So we did a similar sort of thing, but at the bank. And I had a chat to Nathan, and then the next thing we know, we're meeting. Then the next thing we know, we're meeting.
On our first meeting.
On our first meeting.
On our first meeting, I met Mel, and she was going to renovate her own house, and yeah, have a renovation there. I'm going to bring that up because it's just...
And Nathan said, so how much are you thinking of renovating? What are you going to do on your renovation? I said, oh, we might spend, $50,000 or $60,000. And he said, absolutely no way, you can't renovate yet.
He said 120.
Oh, I said we had a loan for 120 for renovations.
For renovations.
And he said, you can go and spend $2,000. I went, well...
It was the first time we sat together and I said, just spend $2,000. Just please don't spend 120 down and buy a house for that.
So we spent 50 plus maybe. But it made us, when we met Nathan and Dan, it made us realise that, hang on a minute, if we rejiggle everything and reprioritise and write down a few goals, we can actually get a lot further in our plans. So that was like on a Friday, I think we met. Then on the Tuesday at 4 o'clock, he rang me and he said, right, you know how you said that you wanted to buy a property? Well, I've got one. You need to ring the real estate agent and say if you're interested, this is the address and you need to pay a $500 deposit by 5 o'clock. And I'm like, okay. So we did.
And you'll see where it was?
I think, well, yeah, you did. And I'm like, Bidwell. Where's that, Nathan? He said it's in Mount Druitt. I went, okay. And he sent me the link on realestate.com and I rang him back and I said, are you for real?
I'll show you a photo of what it looks like inside.
It's really hard to see, but I paid the $500 deposit. We went out to see it the next day. Nathan had to leave the property and go outside in the backyard before he vomited. And my husband and I were like beside ourselves. We're like, oh my goodness, this is absolutely disgusting. So it was the filthiest thing I'd ever seen. There was rat poo, cockroach poo, there was normal poo.
And one thing that I don't normally do, though, that I help you on that, I'm actually helping with your stove. And
Oh yes, I have video footage of Nathan removing the stove from its position because there was something down there and I said, you're going to have to do that because I'm not doing it. So I got I had one of Steve's boys and he had to go outside and have a quiet little heave. So Nathan got rid of that for me. So
it was mouse too.
they were bigger than mice. Ugh. Anyway, so the thing is that my husband Andrew and I, we bought this place and I got my hands dirty because I wanted to see what it was like. It took me 3 days to sugar soak. The bath we thought would have to replace because it was so filthy. I don't know what these people had done. But if you need a hot tip, use Coca-Cola. It cleaned the bath. Awesome product. Imagine what it does to your stomach. So have a think about that next time you drink it. But now we're so excited, and while we were doing Bidwell, Nathan had said, oh, there's this place up in Cairns. We want you to buy it. We're like, oh, okay. So we did. So that was number 2. And then we've just bought another one. We're settling on it on the 12th of April. And that's in Edmonton. And it's really clean compared to Bidwell. Steve is going, I'm not lifting a finger, by the way.
If I can just ask you a couple of questions on this one.
On Bidwell, sure.
Yeah, so you did that.
Yep.
How much did it cost you on the reno?
Well, Nathan said I was allowed to spend $10,000. And so I did. And I got everything done for $10,000.
Did you think you'd do it for 10,000?
No, not a chance. But with the right tradespeople, with some savvy spending, and actually not thinking like an owner-occupier, so thinking like it's a rental property, you're not going to live in it. It's amazing what you can actually do when you change that mindset. I think that's one of the things that we've really learned is to change our mindset. Because I was saying, oh Nathan, what about if I do this and I'll plant some pots here and I'll make this all pretty? He's going, no. I went, okay, I won't do that then. So it's been invaluable actually.
Yeah. And with the new one, you were just saying how it needs similar sort of, it's cleaner, but it needs similar amount of sort of...
Yeah, the bathroom's fine, the kitchen's fine, but it needs, I'm calling Edmonton the graffiti palace because some very artistic young people have graffitied it inside and out, and they've also punched some very nice holes in the walls which they've also tried to patch. So Steve and his boys are going to paint it and resheet it in sections, do gutters.
So it's not your copper pipe?
Pardon?
Copper pipe?
Oh yeah, one of the things that I found with Department of Housing Properties is actually copper pipes are very, very lucrative on the black market. So yeah, all the copper pipes are gone, but that's
I think copper's going for about $100 a kilo or something now. So Yeah, the heaters are too heavy to carry, like, they don't fit on the back of their bike or anything, so
Yeah.
they'll kick it in or burn it or roll it down the street, but yeah. With it, so on that one, how much do you expect to spend on without you lifting your finger, lifting your hand?
Well, Steve assures me that without lifting a finger, we should get out of it for $12,000. But we might have to negotiate that, Steve, because Nathan said I could only spend 10.
I'm not commenting. Whether it's, and how long do you reckon it's going to take to do the project?
Probably 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Which I think is pretty amazing actually, because with Bidwell it took us about 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks. It was over Christmas when every single tradie in New South Wales was having a holiday. And so that took 3 weeks, and I did all the painting myself and I did a lot of the work myself. So if Steve and his boys can get it done in 2 weeks and I don't have to lift a finger and I can continue to do coffee with my girlfriends, I'll be very happy.
And what did you pay for this new one?
We paid $196.
$196.
And we hope to get about $310 to $320 a week rent.
Yeah. So you buy properties in Sydney for 8-9% yield.
Yep. And then we've got another one on the boil with Tamworth. So
You don't have to do anything to that one.
I don't know, do I?
No.
I think I just have to sign the contract.
It's not good like that, yeah.
It's like, oh, here's a property for you to buy, Mel. Just sign the contract. Okay, it looks all right. Because Nathan's done all the research.
Yeah. So it's currently got a tenant in there and it's rented and it doesn't need any work. It's in good condition. So.
Oh, fantastic. Okay.
Thanks for that, Mel.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
that. Thanks for that. I'm going to bring up one more person to talk about their journey over the last couple of months. And with that, I'll just make an apology before she comes up with a photo. I'll put the real estate agent in the room that sold it, and it was the wrong property I put on because I pulled it from realestate.com. So let's just pretend this is a different house, but it looks similar to it. So if we can get Monica up.
It actually looks almost identical, to be honest.
With it, this property, like, maybe you just go back to where we first met. How long ago was it?
I think my husband Nathan met you September, October of last year.
Okay. Your journey is a little bit different. How we came in contact, it was over, I think it was over email, seminar,
Yeah.
email, yeah.
We've tried a lot of other seminars. We've tried buying on our own, got one, made a bit of money, but couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah. With Monica's story, like when you first got up, you thought you could buy one property in 12 months?
We wanted a couple. We wanted to do better than we did last time. We wanted a couple. We've got 2 small boys, so we didn't have high hopes.
Yeah. And with it, when we caught up, we reviewed the whole position of where you were and what your goals were. And I remember saying to Nathan that, I forget the exact number it was, I said, mate, I expect to see 5 properties by the end of the year, within a year. And he really fell off his chair. And he's like,
don't think so. That'd be nice, but I don't think so. Yeah.
You've been to some of these, I don't know how to call them, like the group that you've been to for the finance and everything. They sold off the planning packages and
things like that. Yeah, they're a financial group and they put us in touch with property developers and stuff like that. But none of it stacked up. The numbers didn't stack up, so we didn't do it.
Yeah. And that was the important thing, is that when there's properties briefs out there that'll say, go and buy this property, it's good, it's got depreciation, all those sorts of things. The question that always answers people is, well, why did you buy them, first of all? How can it make money without showing me a graph and projections of how it could potentially, hopefully, maybe drop in value? And they're getting paid like 30, 40 grand commission for selling your property. And that was basically our conversation. I remember saying to you both not to buy anything straight away. I said to go and get the
team
set up.
Yeah.
And from that, what's happened over the last
4 months.
4 months? Yeah.
Over the last 4 months, we've got everything set in place. We've got a fantastic accountant, fantastic bank manager. We've got awesome income protection in place, so I don't have any fees anymore. And we've bought 5 properties.
Yeah, 5 properties.
One that gave us 2 villas.
Yeah. And how much you pay for that?
$60,000 for both.
How much is it rent for?
Sorry?
How much does it rent for each week?
We should get at least 150 each villa
So $300 a week for
for
60,000.
60 grand.
Yeah. And with it, as far as the whole journey, like with it, from initial meetings, like you went to a broker, and without mentioning mortgage choice or any names like that, you went to a recommendation of a friend or someone that said go to them. What was because I remember we had the conversation, we were sitting at the end of the table in the boardroom in the office, and I just looked and I said,
it was all about, I can get you the best rate. I can get you the best rate, the best rate. And Nathan was trying to explain to this lovely lady what we wanted to do, and she just didn't get it.
Yeah.
She did not understand. We don't want to buy 1 property. We don't want to buy 2 properties.
Yeah.
We need at least 20 pretty soon.
Yeah.
And she didn't get it.
Basically, the situation I saw that Monica and Nathan were getting into was the fact that they wouldn't be able to keep purchasing properties. And it was, at that point I said, just don't buy anything, don't do it right now, just go out there, you can chat to Madhu, I use Madhu, you can chat to any other banks, just go and ask the questions and make sure you've got clarity, because when you're building your portfolio, it must make sense. If it doesn't make sense with the decision that you take, if you can't find a way that will make sense, common sense, then it doesn't make sense. Like it's too complicated, and there wasn't any clarity on that. You went to a few banks.
But yeah, he saw 3 or 4 banks,
Yeah.
a couple of accountants,
Yeah.
and it was like Dan, the person you felt most comfortable with.
Yeah.
And the first time I met Madhu, he called us aggressive investors, and I just thought that's our man. So he understood what we wanted to do.
Yeah. And with some of the deals, like I'm just trying to think back through all the deals. I know we've got this one on the Central Coast, went to auction.
Yep.
181 was the right number.
That was the right number.
That's the right number.
And then the real estate agent tried to buy an office.
It's something. It's a good buy that you got there. I know that I've been to auctions there recently, and they've sold for at least half the equity more. And with it, that was actually in the suburb where you bought your first one. I was saying, yeah.
Yeah, it's the right figure, it's just the wrong photo.
Okay. Don't worry about that.
So, knowing what you've achieved in the short space on the youth investment, what do you think you'll be able to achieve by the end?
We're ready to do the next 2. We've got a little holiday overseas in the next few weeks, and when we get back, we're doing our next 2 properties.
That was actually in the suburb where you bought your first one. I was saying, yeah.
Yeah, it's the right figure, it's just the wrong photo.
Okay. Don't worry about that.
So, knowing what you've achieved in the short space on the youth investment, what do you think you'll be able to achieve by the end?
We're ready to do the next 2. We've got a little holiday overseas in the next few weeks, and when we get back, we're doing our next 2 properties. And by the end of the year, we should have 10, according to our plan. And that's half of what we wanted to achieve in 5 years.
Fantastic.
So we're pretty happy.
Fantastic. And there's probably lots of questions that people may be having, reserved questions in the back of their heads. I'm just going to touch on a few, I've got 3 great questions. First one is, has it affected your lifestyle?
Absolutely.
Yeah, like in a negative way, positive way?
Positive way.
Yeah.
totally fine. We've been talking about getting
Yeah.
us a new family car for 12 months, and we
Yeah.
thought it was another 12 months away. I did that last month,
Yeah.
so pretty happy. Our cash flow just seems to be better because our
Yeah.
whole mindset
Yeah.
has totally changed.
Yeah.
We see everything differently,
Yeah.
so it's been the best thing we ever did.
I refer to it like I know the feeling when I first had it. It was like taking the red pill or the blue pill on the Matrix, and once you take that pill, there's no going back. You can't go and see how it used to look like.
No,
I'm guessing that same sort of.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And from that perspective, people fear and like there's fears and things you probably would have thought of from the start.
Everything was a fear.
Yeah.
Everything was a fear. How can we do it? I only work part-time. I don't want to work. I want to be with my boys. How do we do it? But what if they're awful properties? You're
Yeah.
buying in places like Bidwell. But
Yeah.
you've got a team.
Yeah.
We've got awesome people that we talk to, like you and Dan and Madhu and our accountant.
Yeah.
Anytime we have a question,
Yeah.
just ask it.
Yeah.
So there is no fear because you're always getting answers.
Yeah. And with it, this is a mindset thing that a lot of people have. I know that we've spoken about it. People fear that when you go and buy properties and build a portfolio that you're getting yourself into more debt and all those sorts of things. I remember having a chat with Nate the other day about you've even paid down a chunk of the mortgage in the last
Oh, yeah. It's just, with our cash flow's better. We seem to be more focused and we're smarter with our money. So, yeah, we've paid off quite a few thousand off our mortgage, which is part of our plan. Bought a new car, able to do little trips that we didn't think we'd be able to do. And it is just because we're being smarter.
Yeah.
Because it's a whole lifestyle change for
Yeah.
us. Yeah, it's been fantastic.
Fantastic. Appreciate that. And just on a final note, this isn't like on the TVs where it says this is an infomercial, these people get paid presentation. Have a chat with everyone here. It's all real stuff. There's no rocket science to it. But just on that note, thanks for those few who have come from quite far this evening. With it, appreciate your attendance. On that note, if you want to have a chat, I'm sure there's lots of questions. I'll be around, Daniel will be around.